Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you're all having a good day. Yes, we're back in this world. It has been a little while. Minecraft SOS took so much of my focus, but I absolutely loved my time on that server and pulled off probably the biggest project I've ever built in survival Minecraft. And that includes mountain ranges and stuff that we were building in the original series of the Minecraft Survival Guide. So if you haven't checked out Minecraft SOS already, just go and check out the finale. Just watch the 2 time lapses I put into there. The biggest build I think I've ever done, and I'm really happy with it. But we're back here in the tutorial world now, and today we're going to take a look at some features that have been added to Minecraft very recently. And bear in mind that this week, at the time of this recording, later this week, Minecraft 1.21, the Tricky Trials update, is going to be arriving and bringing with it a ton of new content for the game, which we're going to check out for the first time here in the Minecraft Survival Guide world. Later this week, we will do a quick look at a program that Java players can use to trim out the chunks of their world that you visited before, but not necessarily used a whole bunch, in order to generate new content. And that's a really useful skill to know for future updates as well, in case Minecraft adds new biomes to the game, for example, and you want to create room for them slightly closer to the center of your world, and they would generate in nearby chunks that you maybe haven't used a great deal of. But in this case, we're going to be using it to make sure that we can generate trial chambers relatively close by. Trial chambers are a new structure that are effectively a revamped dungeon experience, and it's going to be really fun to have one of those almost on our doorstep. So I'm going to try my best to make that happen, but that's going to be in the next video. In today's video, we're going to go in search of a couple of mobs that have been added to the game in Minecraft 1.20.5, and the 0.5 is an interesting one. Normally, these decimal point updates after one of the major revisions to the game, like 1.20, are for bug fixes and small tweaks to functionality and like little features like that. But this time around, the team that works on them was given the option to work on the Armadillo, which was a mob that players voted for at the last Minecraft Live. And along with the Armadillo, wolf armor was added to the game. So for the first time in this series, we're going to go out, look for, and tame some wolves, and then we're going to talk about the armadillos and the wolf armor on top of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab some bones. We'll need the bones to go out and tame some wolves. We probably won't need a full stack of them for just the one wolf, but just in case we go out to some other biomes and try to find some other wolves, we will bring a stack of bones with us. I'm also going to grab a bed, because chances are we'll be away from home for a little while, and while I will set my spawn here at first, it's probably going to be a good idea to make sure we have a means of sleeping while we're out on the road. So this is going to be a video all about wolves, wolf armor, and armadillos, but it's also going to be a little bit about passive mob spawning and why it works the way it does, and why you sometimes won't find mobs generating in biomes you've already visited when an update to the game arrives like this, bringing with it new mobs or new variants. To start with, I've explored this world a fair bit already. As you can see, we've been doing projects in other regions of the world than just the base around spawn. So in my time, I've generated a reasonable amount of terrain, like this forest, for example. And if I was exploring this forest in the early days of my world, I might have spotted a couple of wolves wandering around here. And those would be the older variant of the wolf. There was only ever one type of wolf in the game up until the 1.20.5 update. It's now the pale wolf, which you will actually find spawning in taiga biomes more frequently. However, wandering around this forest, I might still encounter a pale wolf or two that generated while the biome was originally generating. The first time we visited this area, the game might have chosen to spawn some wolves in here amongst the sheep and pigs and everything else. And to be honest, the sheep might not have lasted all that long if there was a wolf around here, because naturally spawned wolves will go ahead and attack sheep. If you've ever been wandering around a forest and spotted some mutton and wool just lying on the ground, that's probably evidence there is a wolf nearby. So if you're looking for wolves, that could be a good starting point. But yes, if you've generated a biome before Minecraft 1.20.5 was released and you updated your world, you might still find a pale wolf wandering around a biome that isn't a taiga biome. And the game didn't retain any information about what biome that wolf spawned in, so it has no reason to upgrade it to the new variant version. In this case, however, it seems like this little patch of forest near to the floating ship build doesn't really have any wolves in it, so I'm going to explore a little further over this way, and then we might have to travel further afield still if we want to track down some wolves for the first time. Here we go, underneath the trees of this little patch of forest, not too far away from our starting point, we have found a pale wolf. And these will be an uncommon sight in newly generated forest because the woods wolf looks slightly different now. We found a pale wolf that already generated in the world in this forest biome, and if you approach a wolf with some bones, you should be able to right-click on it with the bones, and you'll notice a couple of particles appear. There are a couple of wolves in this biome, actually, so there you go. We end up with a dog after we fed it a couple of bones. And dogs, you can distinguish from wolves by the fact that they have a collar, and they can be commanded to sit or to follow if you right-click on them. The tamed wolf is going to follow you around if you walk around like this, and if it's on all fours, and then if you command it to sit down, and its haunches are going to squat down like that, this wolf is now sitting, and will not follow you regardless of how far you go or how fast you travel. So we're going to start off by bringing this wolf home. This is, like I said, the type of wolf that would typically spawn in a taiga biome now, so it's actually kind of nice that we've encountered one here because there are very few taiga biomes close to the center of my world. And traveling with animals like this can be a little bit tricky. The pet animals, which are wolves and cats, are actually quite tricky to transport over long distances. If I get a little bit too far away from this wolf, let's say if I hop this ravine, for example, the wolf will actually teleport to me. You saw it very briefly there. In the blink of an eye, the wolf will teleport to a solid block near you if you get too far away. Naturally, it will not do this if it is sitting down, but if it's in follow mode and it has difficulty reaching the player, or if the player moves a little bit too fast, typically it will warp to your location. But it's only going to do that within a very specific radius. Once you get more than 12 blocks away from a wolf, it's going to teleport to you, but you have to be standing on a solid block, so it won't teleport to me up here in the trees, but once I hop down to the ground, this wolf should end up teleporting to me. Yep, there we go. Suddenly it was behind me. A little bit creepy, actually. And you can fly away from a wolf. Obviously, it's not going to teleport to you in the air, but we can set ourselves down here in the meadow biome, and pretty quickly, the wolf should have teleported to us. There we go. The most important thing is to make sure that the area of the world, the chunk that your wolf is in, does not get unloaded while you're flying in the air, because if it does, the wolf is going to remain in that chunk. The game no longer acknowledges that the wolf exists because it's trying to save memory, and so the wolf will end up stranded in that chunk until you return to an area where that chunk is loaded. So if I fly all the way from this meadow over here, past my pirate ship in the sky, and down to the meadow biome on the other side, I don't know if we'll be able to see that meadow biome that we just left, but chances are we won't. There we go. And if I alight on the ground here now, you'll find that the wolf hasn't teleported to me because that meadow biome over there isn't loaded and we've left the wolf there. If I find a decent halfway point, like if I set myself down underneath our floating island here, there we go. The wolf has teleported to me within an inch of me touching the ground. And I should be able to basically make that the halfway point of the trip back to this meadow biome, where once we touch down on the surface of this hill here, the wolf has teleported to us. Perfect. And as we swoop down into the valley on the other side where our homestead is, the wolf has teleported to us, and we can leave it sitting out here by the blacksmith's house. With the wolf now a permanent resident of this area, we can go ahead and customize the wolf's look a little bit by giving it a different colored collar. I'm going to grab some green dye from in here, and if you use any color of dye on a wolf, the collar will change to match that color. So we now have a green colored wolf where the default color is pretty much always red. Now that night is falling in this area, we're going to encourage this wolf to follow us, and we're going to set out in search of some mobs we can fight, because wolves will actually help you attack hostile mobs. Let's take this spider, for example. Should be a pretty easy mark for our tamed wolf. If I just give this spider a quick hit with the sword, the wolf will step in and join the fray, and can often finish off mobs, and that includes dropping experience for the player. Once a player has tamed a wolf, they retain exclusive control of the wolf, so other players cannot command the wolf to sit or stay, they can't command the wolf to really do anything, and other mobs in the vicinity will not be attacked by a wolf unless the mob attacks the player that controls the wolf, or unless the player that controls the wolf attacks the mob. Wolves in the wild will naturally go after skeletons because they're made of bones. Let's take a look at what this tamed wolf does when a skeleton is nearby. First of all, we're going to have it attack the spider, and the spider attacked me first, so the wolf immediately jumped in to attack. And a skeleton over here has immediately got the wolf angry, and the skeleton will actually run away from the wolf, which is really useful behavior if you want to use that to separate skeletons out from other mobs. Oh, the skeleton has gotten caught in the soul sand, but so has the wolf, so we're going to attack the skeleton on this side, and hopefully that should give a chance for the wolf to catch up and deal some damage. This is where you need to be careful about your wolf getting damaged by the skeleton, though, because mobs will retaliate retaliate and attack wolves, and skeletons can keep them at range, shooting with a bow occasionally. I'm going to let this spider attack me so that the wolf will attack it, and let's see if yep, there we go. The wolf is taking a little bit of damage from the spider, so I'm going to step in. There we go. Thankfully, the wolf survived that encounter. We're going to sleep to make it daytime, and we'll talk about healing wolves. There we go. Our poor trusty companion has been damaged a little bit. You can actually tell something about a wolf's health by the height of its tail. Normally, if the tail is healthy, it sticks up at a little angle from the back of the wolf. As you can see right now, the wolf's tail is sort of aligned with the back, which indicates it's taken a couple of hearts of damage. And if a wolf's tail is down, almost like it's between its legs, then that means the wolf is in dire need of healing. So obviously we can do that with a splash potion of healing, which works to heal basically any mobs, except for the undead ones, which it will hurt. But in this case, we can actually feed the wolf a couple of things. Rotten flesh is a viable food for wolves, even though it's not particularly viable food for players. So I'm going to grab a little bit of rotten flesh here. We're going to have the wolf stand up so you can see the tail a little better. And if I right-click on the wolf with some rotten flesh, as you can see, the tail extends upwards ever so slightly, and the hearts appear right after that to indicate that the wolf is fully healed. That's also activating breeding mode for the wolf, but obviously there are no other wolves around with which to breed. So that right there is a crash course in basic wolf management. We have a healthy wolf once again, and the tail won't be totally touching the ground when it's sat down, which is once again how you can tell that the wolf's health is back up to normal. We're going to go around looking for some other types of wolves, but we're also going to look for something that can help this wolf stay extra protected. The armadillo is going to help us acquire some wolf armor. To encounter the armadillo, we're going to have to fly out to a savanna biome or a badlands biome. And I'm fairly certain that across this western ocean, we run into a savanna biome pretty quickly. There we go. This was where I fought the wither in a previous episode, and there's a little village nestled here on the fringes of the ocean. You will, of course, recognize savanna biomes by the presence of acacia trees and this slightly yellower grass. I've clearly been here before. I'm pretty sure this was a lava lake. There's evidence of some burned trees around and this sort of empty stone basin here. And this is normally where you would come to look for armadillos, but as I mentioned earlier with the passive mob spawning angle on this, it is unlikely that we're going to find any armadillos in this biome because it's one we've previously visited. Now, that's not to say that this savanna is somehow exempt from armadillo spawning because it was generated in a previous update. In fact, if we killed all of the passive mobs around here, chances are the mob cap for passive mobs locally would refill and would start to generate a few armadillos on the surface, but it would do that incredibly slowly. Passive mob spawning in Minecraft works a little bit differently to hostile mob spawning, and it doesn't just try to refill the mob cap at all times. A lot of the passive mobs that you'll find wandering around in these biomes, the sheep and cows and everything, will have appeared when this chunk was originally generated. The first time you visited it, along with generating the terrain, the game will generate a bunch of passive mobs to populate the terrain. This is one of the reasons why it's much more effective setting up a cow or sheep breeding farm if you want to farm wool or steak or mutton or anything like that, instead of just walking around killing every mob that you see. Sooner or later, you're going to run out of mobs and the game will take its time generating more. So as I said, this savanna could generate more armadillos if we kill all the mobs here and wait a while for them to respawn, but it is going to take a while, and so it's better for us to quickly go out and find a savanna we have not visited before. Naturally, this could take a bit of traveling, but in the case of savannas, it's worth sticking to the other warm biomes. If you see warm oceans, jungles, deserts, or badlands, there are going to be some savannas adjacent to those most of the time. And in the case of the armadillo watch here, what we're looking for is a small terracotta-colored mob, a little bit smaller than a pig. We'll stay aligned with these biomes as much as we can because look at this enormous mangrove swamp that we found. And let's drop ourselves down in this savanna over here. You'll often be able to tell if there is new terrain generating in your world because instead of appearing out of the mist like this, you will see it generating in the distance a chunk at a time. And I did a bit of exploring in a recent live stream to try and find new savanna terrain, and I think this might be where we ended up. Yep, it was. We hopped on here and I heard an armadillo sound effect from nearby and an armadillo curled up because I got too close and I was running at the time. That is an armadillo, my friends. This is a wonderful little creature that can be found here in the Savanna or the Badlands biome. It's a little bit skittish, though. If you run around near it, it will curl up into a ball, like so, and after a while will pop its head out just to make sure its surroundings are safe. So I'm crouching right now. If I walk up to it at normal speed, it's totally fine with my presence, but if I sprint at it, there you go. It gets a little bit skittish and curls up into a block. Armadillos can be tempted using spider eyes. In fact, here's another armadillo down here on the plains, so we'll bring this along with us, and hopefully that other armadillo should not have wandered off too far. They aren't the fastest moving creatures, though. It's a little bit like breeding turtles at this pace, but here we go. Let's see if we can get these two armadillos together. Feed one a spider eye, feed the other a spider eye, and they should produce a baby armadillo, which are frankly pretty adorable mobs. There we go. Look at you. And of course, if you feed this one some of the extra food, it's going to increase its chances of growing up a stage and growing into an adult armadillo. Like other passive mobs, you can put an armadillo on a lead as well, so if you really want it to follow you and you want a little bit of extra pace, you can always drag it along a little bit, provided that you're okay avoiding the natural obstacles in the terrain. And it looks like another armadillo might even have got itself stuck in this ravine at some stage. I promise that wasn't me. But the reason you're likely to want to find an armadillo is because periodically they will drop an item called a scute. Now, scutes are something we've handled in the survival guide before, right? They were the product of breeding baby turtles and letting them grow up, and each one would drop a scute when it grew. Well, armadillo scutes are a little bit different. Instead of having to wait for the baby armadillo to grow up, the adult armadillos will drop scutes periodically. They won't do it constantly, but if you want to passively farm scutes, you simply need to leave a couple of armadillos around in an enclosed area that you can keep an eye on and wait for them to drop them. The other alternative, though, is to speed things up a little bit, and I'm going to reach into my utility box here where I should have an archaeology brush. If we give this armadillo a brush with a right click like so, you'll notice it's going to take a ton of durability off your brush. It will actually take 16 durability per brush if it's not enchanted with unbreaking, but that's going to drop a scute, and you'll get an advancement titled Isn't It Scute for getting scutes from an armadillo using a brush. Naturally, though, after a couple of brushes, that is going to break. It will drop another scute for us, meaning we've got 3 so far, but this goes through brushes very quickly, and if you don't want to enchant your brushes with mending, you're probably going to need to acquire a few of them. Fortunately for us, brushes are cheap to make, and copper is plentiful. Is there another armadillo splashing in the water up there? Let's go and take a look at this. Yes, there is. That's where our baby armadillo ended up. Well, get out of the water, buddy. This doesn't look like the best place to take a bath. In fact, as night falls and I use one of the blast furnaces from my village box to cook this copper, we can actually observe the armadillo's behavior during nighttime. Let's see if we can bait this spider into leaping the ravine and following us. Actually, it looks like the spider has run away because the armadillo is down there taking a bath. Let's get the spider into the range of the adult armadillo and see what happens. Yep, there we go. The spider is actually walking away once again because the armadillo is a threat to it. Armadillos in the wild naturally eat bugs, so the spider is not too keen on this armadillo being around and is very confused about both trying to path to me and trying to path away from the armadillo. Now, the interesting thing about armadillos is that other types of mobs will spook them kind of in the same way that a player running does, and the creeper is not so much of a concern, but other mobs like zombies and skeletons will cause it to roll up. In their rolled up state, armadillos will take a little bit less damage from a variety of sources. Arrows will bounce off their shells, and unless the arrow is fired with a little bit of extra strength, it's not even going to deal any damage. Unfortunately, though, they do take a little bit of damage from swords and the like. I'm sorry, friend, here you go. Have a free spider eye on the house. In the light of morning, though, the armadillo is fine. Our copper has cooked, and if I bust out a crafting table, we should be able to craft a few more brushes and get hold of some more scutes. Let's go with 6 brushes. I think that'll get us enough scutes to play around with, at least for now. We'll get 4 scutes per brush, and the brush will immediately break, so we're considering brushes disposable at this point. And if I'm not mistaken, I think brushes can be applied to an armadillo with a dispenser in the same way that shears can be used to shear wool from sheep. So if you wanted to set up an automatic scute farm, it would go through brushes pretty quickly, but feed a ton of brushes in there and you'll end up with a lot of armadillo scutes very quickly. Why would you want this many armadillo scutes? Well, the only thing they can currently be crafted into is wolf armor, and that is the reason we came out here in the first place. I'm going to craft 4 pieces of wolf armor and take that back to base where our wolf is going to get a new set of clothes. Before we leave, though, we're going to look around for any terrain that counts as a savanna plateau. We might get a little bit of that in the edges of this terrain before it turns into another biome, but there is a variant of wolves that actually spawns in the Savanna Plateau biome. Of course, that does involve finding a Savanna Plateau biome, and it doesn't look like there are too many of those around here. You'll typically be able to find them because they are taller biomes, and they often spawn llamas in addition to the new spotted wolf variant. Yes, this looks like the type of terrain we're headed for, right next to a Badlands biome as well, so we might see a couple of other armadillos around there. We've got our llamas. Where are the new wolves? Here they are, spawning in a pretty large pack, it looks like. Oh my goodness, there are 8 of them here, it looks like. In fact, no, there are even more. It looks like 2 packs have spawned here at once. That's a huge amount of them. Well, we're going to bring back at least one of those. There we go, tamed pretty much instantly, and this can be our first chance to try out the new wolf armor on the dogs. Look at that. Hey, it's a new little set of threads, including a helmet, sort of a chest plate, and you finally got an answer for where the pants go on the dog. It's over the top at the back. This is the spotted wolf variant, once again, that appears in Savanna Plateau biomes. There's also a striped wolf that appears in wooded Badlands biomes, but from the looks of things while we were flying over, I don't think that Badlands over there had a great deal of woodsy terrain on it. No, it looks like this is pretty open, barren mesa territory. Alright, so let's see if there's any more wooded Badlands along the way, because it would be really nice to bring back a couple of wolf variants for us to check out today, even if we don't end up collecting the whole set. We are quite far from home at this point, though. I checked the coordinates. We are over 3,500 blocks in both directions from 00, which means we're probably about 3,000 blocks away from my base camp. It will be a long trek home, and we're going to have to deal with the difficulties of bringing a wolf with us. Most of the time it won't be a problem. We're exploring the world, the dog is just going to teleport to me like so and wander off a little bit. Oh, there's a couple of wolves generating in the woods here as well, although those also seem to be pale wolves, so I wonder if maybe we have generated this terrain before and just not gone far enough to find that savanna biome. The woods wolf that appears in forests should be a little bit darker, have a little bit more brown in the coat. Like this one, haha! I was hoping we'd run into one eventually. There we go, and I honestly got confused because I heard 2 barks, and I thought one of them was coming from my already tamed spotted wolf, but here we go. We have ourselves a woods wolf as well now. You'll find these spawning in packs that are usually around 4. There's another one down here as well, it looks like, and there should be a couple more around. But before we continue, I want to be able to differentiate between the spotted wolf and the woods wolf, so let's see if we can find some dyes that we can use. There we go. We'll have some yellow dye here. This isn't going to be the best fit fashion-wise, but let's dye this wolf armor yellow, and let's give that to the woods wolf, and then we'll be able to see, kind of color-coded, which one is which. And now with 2 wolves in tow, I'm going to try and speed up the process of making it home, making sure that I land every so often if we're flying, to allow the wolves to teleport to me. As long as you travel systematically like this, you shouldn't have too much of a problem getting wolves back to your base, but occasionally you're going to encounter large bodies of water that it's impossible to cross without unloading the chunks that the wolves are standing on. Wait a second, we have a wooded Badlands biome here. I wonder if any wolves have spawned up here, or perhaps this is a Badlands we've already generated and there's no chance of more passive mobs being here. Yeah, after taking a quick fly around, it does look like we don't have any more wolves generating here, just the ones that we're bringing with us. So that's a shame, but we'll deal. If you're on the lookout for wolves, you can also find them in the colder biomes. You'll find an ashen wolf in the snowy taiga. Both of the old growth tigers, the ones with podzol on the floor, can have either black or chestnut wolves in. The pale wolf that we've already tamed can also be found in the taiga biome. You'll find rusty wolves in sparse jungle biomes. Those are the ones with minimal foliage on the ground and much less thick trees. And finally, grove biomes, which are the ones up the sides of mountains with snow on the ground, a little bit of powder snow, and occasional taiga trees. That's where you can find the lonesome snowy wolf, which is the only wolf that only spawns on its own, doesn't have packs of wolves that you'll find roaming around. You might find 1 or 2 dotted throughout a grove biome instead. This, I believe, is the desert that we have been to before. This Badlands looks familiar. Over here we should find the portal to the desert temple. Yes, here we go, and that brings us to our other, slightly more dangerous option. We can bring our pets back with us through the nether. If I hop on through and allow the wolves to follow me, they'll step into the portal one at a time, like so, and we should be able to go on through to follow them. And thankfully here in the nether, we've come out at our wither skeleton farm, which is now relatively spawn-proof, so there is less chance of the wolves being fireballed by blazes from the ramparts of this nether fortress. Just to speed things up a little bit though, I am going to try and make it to some safe landing points here. The wolves should just teleport to me instead of having to trek through the nether terrain forever. It's also a little bit of a concern that the basalt delta terrain nearby is going to be full of lava, so we'll try our best to skip over most of that and land over here by the portal to our nether hub. There we go. And now if we step through to the other side of this portal and try and encourage the wolves to follow us on through, they should make it back to the storage room. You can always lead a wolf into a portal. The lead will break and you'll just be able to watch the wolf walk on through. And on the other side, there we go. They've stepped out into our storage room and can make their way into this little area with our already tamed pale wolf, who we can also apply a set of wolf armor to. Let's match it with the collar and go with some green dye for this one. Oh, that's the bed. Where's the wolf armor? There it is. And we'll apply that to the wolf there so it matches the collar. It looks like it's wearing some kind of like foresty camouflage at this stage. Well, we forgot to apply any dye to this wolf armor, or at least I didn't have any dye on me at the time, and it's not really possible to remove wolf armor in the same way that it is horse armor, but it is possible to remove it. Let me show you quickly how. If we open up our backup gearbox, in here I should have a set of shears, and you don't need to use shears that are enchanted, these ones just conveniently are. If you right click on a wolf with the shears, there we go, we get the shear brilliance advancement, which is another way, if you look in the advancements, you can actually tell how to remove wolf armor. This will also tell you that you can tame one of each wolf variant for an advancement. There are 9 in total, and we've only tamed 3 so far. That you can repair damaged wolf armor using armadillo scutes, and that there's also an advancement for taming all the cat variants, of which there are already 11 in the game, although the cat variants were added a lot earlier than the wolf variants were. I think we're going to take a white and a black dye to go with a grey wolf armor for our spotted wolf. That kind of matches the sort of mottled grey color that it has there. There we go. The grey stripe suits the patterns on its face a little bit as well. There we go. So you can have a bit of a doggy fashion show if you want to. In fact, once you've dyed a wolf armor, much like leather armor, you'll notice the color gets stored as a hexadecimal color value, and so you can actually combine different colors to create a variety of different shades. Combining the pink dye with this gray dye makes a darker sort of lilac or lavender kind of color. So if you want to experiment with a bit of that, similar to how you can with regular leather armor, you can do that with wolf armor. And if at any point you decide you don't like the color on that wolf armor and you want to change it, simply place down a cauldron, fill it with a bucket of water, and dip the wolf armor in the cauldron. That should take the dye off, reverting it to the natural wolf armor. And you'll notice that wolf armor equips the wolf with a pretty decent armor rating. A netherite chestplate by default gives the player 8 armor, so that's the equivalent of putting on basically a netherite chestplate plus a little extra. And the major difference between player armor and wolf armor is that the wolf armor will actually negate any damage to that wolf. Take a look at the wolf's tail height here, and you'll notice it didn't take any damage from what was otherwise a sharpness 4 netherite sword crit. I know, not the coolest thing to have done, but we can also demonstrate the fact that wolf armor can be repaired directly using armadillo scutes, like so, and you get the advancement good as new for that. So if the wolf takes any damage during combat now, that's going to be absorbed by the armor. The wolf should be able to get the upper hand in the fight as long as you're not fighting something really hefty and hard-hitting like a warden, and the player can simply come through with a few more armadillo scutes, repair the wolf armor, and the wolf will be all well again. If the wolf happens to have taken any damage from another source while the wolf armor wasn't equipped, or if the wolf armor breaks, you can of course feed it a few more pieces of rotten flesh or steak or any meat that you have around, and the wolves will gobble that right up, and they should return to their full tail height, meaning they're at full health again. So if we want to now, we can bring a full pack of wolves with us during nighttime combat missions. They will basically attack anything that the player attacks or anything that attacks the player. They will retaliate, so wolves can get you the upper hand in combat situations in a variety of different ways. The main reason I haven't brought wolves with me in the past, aside from the fact that they were slightly weaker before the addition of this wolf armor, is that wolves sometimes get in the way of you trying to control combat situations. So if you're running away from a creeper and trying to crit, every so often you end up with the wolf jumping in the way of you as they kind of walk around and try and stay close to the players. So oftentimes it's a little bit difficult to avoid hitting wolves mid-combat. Swords in Java Edition also have the sweep attack, which Sweeping Edge enhances, and so any mobs that you attack near a wolf, if the sweeping attack hits the wolf, it's going to take 100% of the damage that you just dealt to that mob, which is why jump attacks are going to be slightly more valuable in being more precise in your attacks if you've got wolves around, or you might want to consider fighting with an axe instead. They can be enchanted with sharpness or smite to really up the damage, and they don't have the sweep attack to contend with, so you're probably going to have a slightly easier time avoiding hitting your wolf as well. But I think even though we've enjoyed having the wolf armor on these, I'm not planning on using them for combat right away, and it's really nice to see the new variants of wolves in person. We're going to change the collars up on a couple of these as well, but I think they are really quite handsome creatures now that there are variants of them in the game and there's a bit more personality applied to each. I can definitely see myself going out maybe on a stream or in a future video and taming every variant of wolf. We have tamed one cat in the past as well, it looks like, according to my advancements, so we've definitely had a few pets around, and cats have their own advantages. Whilst they won't defend the player in the way wolves do, they do scare off phantoms and creepers, which can be really valuable and mechanically quite necessary for certain types of farms. But for now, of course, we're going to wrap things up with these wolves just kind of hanging out around my homestead here. And if you have any name suggestions for these wolves, I'd love to take a few of those from the comments. So if you want to, I can grab some name tags from my librarians in there or any I've found in dungeons, and we can name these wolves together as part of the series. But from me and my new canine family members, that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this early look at wolves, wolf armor, and armadillos. Obviously, we're a little bit behind the curve when it comes to Minecraft updates, but look out for future videos in the Minecraft Survival Guide where we'll be upgrading this world to 1.21 and exploring all of the new features that arrive with the Tricky Trials update. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you folks soon. Take care. Bye for now.